Hi friends, it's Liz here. Welcome back to my channel and thanks so much for joining me today. I'll be sharing a couple projects with all of you and I'll be showing you how to make these little coin envelopes that I decided to make recently. And also I'll show you how I made that mason jar I showed you guys a few days ago in a different project I had. So to get started, I was inspired by this regular coin envelope. I was doing some embellishing, collaging. I'll be adding this to a kit, and I thought, well, I'd love to have different, paper colors and sizes and stuff. And so it reminded me of a project I did a long time ago, which is just making these little pockets. And I just kind of changed it up a little bit and made these little envelopes, and they're like the coin envelope style. So you can use any kind of paper that you have. For this one, I used book pages and some coffee stain paper. And then the next one, and this one has the cancel stamp embellishment on it. I have shown you guys how to make these before, so I will link that video below. And these ones, I just added the little words to them. Now, I don't know where I got the words, so if anyone knows where they came from, like whose digital it is, let me know and I will definitely credit them in the description box below. But I just thought, adding a little touch of them to the front, it looks really nice. These will be going probably in some snail mail and also maybe added to some of my kits. So I will also link the playlist that I have for, craft with me projects and making items with one page for sure, because this you can easily make with one page. So you can see here, I just did a little bit of collaging on it. The back I left it blank, so you can always add that to a book page or a journal or a planner. And this one here as well, I made it with, I don't know, it's just some paper that I had. I did some collaging on it. And of course, added one of the cancel stamp embellishments. Now, I have two videos for the cancel stamp embellishments. I will link those below. I just did them a little different. And then just like I said, the only other thing I've changed is I added the little words or the phrases. This little coin envelope I made with coffee stain paper. So like I said, you can use any paper you have on hand, but I'm going to show you how to make them with the 8.5 by 11 size paper, sort of. And the reason I say sort of is because I cut off a little edge of it so that the size is not that big. What I didn't want is the larger size coin envelopes, and I didn't want that narrow one, that little yellow one that you see to my right. I wanted them to be a little bit kind of chubbier and shorter. So as you can see here, they kind of all turned out kind of looking the same. But again, like I said, you can use any kind of paper that you have on hand. After I show you how to make one of these, then I will show you how I made the mason jars. So to get started, this one here was made with coffee stain paper. So the 8.5 by 11 sheet, which I'm showing you here, I have printed on one side of it. It was just left over from a project. And you could easily fold it in any way you want to make, the different size. But I want to fold it this way to make it a little bit wider. But in order to do that, I'm going to cut off about 3 inches from the longest part of the paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it, and then I'll show you what I've done. So when I take off the piece, you'll see here, this is like about 3 inches that I've taken off the end. I'm going to flip the page so that it's facing me this way. Again, if you're using a pattern, make sure the pattern kind of goes with what you're doing. I'm just going to also use my hands to fold everything, but you can certainly use your scoring board if you have one. Sometimes people don't have scoreboards, and so I thought I would just kind of eyeball it and show you how I make it without one, just in case. You can always use your ruler as well to kind of make the edges a little bit straighter, but here I'm just eyeballing it. I'm folding, I would say, about 1/4 inch from the bottom and the left side, and then the top flap, once you finish your folds and you kind of see the size that you want, I'll probably be folding the top of it about 1 inch, I would say, from the top. So back to this again, you see how I'm just making a little pocket. And what I'll be doing next is just deciding how big I want it. So see the size of it here. If I were to fold over the top, it would be kind of long. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off that top, which is the taller part. So like maybe here. And maybe, no, I'm just going to fold it. So this way I still make a tall envelope, but not too tall. So now this here becomes my flap. So you can see kind of how it's, you know, looking already. It's taking its shape. You can easily cut off some of the top and then make it shorter. But I think this will work just while I'm showing you guys how to make it. So again, you know, you're trying to make your lines as crisp as possible. I'm not using any tools, as you can see, except for my ruler. You'll be now cutting some bits and pieces to make the little pocket. And I'm sure you've seen this done many times before, but I figured I would just show you guys straight ahead in this video, because sometimes I get asked after I finished sharing a project, you know, if I could show you guys how I made something. So I figure I would just add that to this one. I will also try and leave a timestamp in the description box below in case you want to skip right to the mason jar project that I'll be making. So, or showing you how to make the mason jars. Okay, so you saw how I cut off one end of the paper, and then I just kind of cut the ends of the little bottom here, just kind of angled them so it doesn't just look straight from the back. So again, I'm just showing you where I've cut. Now you'll be cutting one more piece from the top, and here I'm just cutting the right side. And the reason being is I don't want to have any bulk when you're folding over your kind of envelope flap. So you kind of see here that it's just already looking like the shape that it's supposed to be. And now on this corner, you're just going to cut off that little square that or rectangle that you're left with on the end. It's super easy, guys. And like I said, any paper that you have will work. You just sort of have to play around with your size and how big you want it, how tall, how wide you might want it. I could have used a full 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which for us is the photocopy paper size. But I decided I wanted them to make them a little shorter. So that's why I'm doing it this way. So now you see I just added a little bit of glue to the flap, and I want the flap on the inside of the envelope. And then the bottom flap, I'm just going to flip it over to the back, and this will be the back of my envelope. And then once this is glued, the top flap, I want to also maybe do a little bit of kind of rounding the corners, because I just think it looks nicer. You can always kind of eyeball it and cut it at an angle to kind of give it more of the triangle look. But I think for this one, I just want to give it a little bit of a rounded edge. If you're interested in finding out any of my favorite supplies, I will also leave that link in the description box below, because I always get asked, you know, what glue I used or what, you know, punch hole thingy I use. So I just leave those for you guys just in case you need them. So now I will grab my hole punch, and I want to make a little hole in the center, and then I'm going to reinforce it with a hole reinforcer. So I'm just making sure I have the right size, because this one has two sides to it. And now this way, once I put my hole reinforcer, you can see then you can just tie a little string or ribbon around it, and then it ends up looking just really nice when you finish the process. Okay, so these hole reinforcers, I like to distress them. So I kind of use my distress stains and, you know, kind of paint them different colors. But I don't like these ones right now, because the colors I've selected for this envelope are exactly like the shade that I've colored the hole reinforcer. So I'm just going to use the plain white ones because they stand out a little bit more in this project. And you don't have to do this part at all. You can always just kind of, you know, tape it shut with a little bit of washi tape. But I kind of like the added, you know, bit that it gives you with the little hole and the string you can tie around it. It just kind of makes it more finished, I think. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this share. I will now start and show you guys how to make the mason jars. Okay, so for the mason jars, you will need a scoreboard, or a punch board, I should say. That's the easiest way that I have seen it done. Originally, I saw, I think it's May Made It who showed how to make them. You can use or I'm using my leftover bits from a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. You know, when you cut off like the 3 inches from the bottom or whatever. So that's the part that I thought would just be easy to reuse. Now, May Made It, I don't know her name. She actually had, she kind of, you know, did a certain number on the little punch board, and I don't have that. So I played around a bit with it to find out what worked best for me. Now, if you see here how I'm lining it up, I'm just making sure that my end to the left, the open end of the paper, is straight and directly onto that line, that little pointy line, that first pointy line where you're scoring. So you see how that turns out there. So you could be finished just like that. And that looks like a mason jar to me. It looks really nice. You can also make it the other way I'm going to show you. And this is such a super easy project, you guys. Again, any size paper you have, but you can just shape it to, you know, whatever you think your mason jar shape will look like, or size, I should say. So again, I'm just folding it in half, making sure that the top part, so the part that opens up, is the one that's facing up, at least for this project. Again, you see me lining it up right at the edge of that first score indicator. And I'm just making sure that it's lined again. This is what happens when you're not using a scoreboard and or your you know, your score thingy, whatever that's called. Okay, so line it up right to that first edge, and then that's where you would punch your hole at the top, flip it over, and do the bottom. And then the next step you would do is, for the mason jar that looks like it's got like a straight top to it, is you would just go right ahead and cut the sides off, which I'm going to show you how to do now. And like I said, guys, super easy, super fun to make. You can now have all these little mason jars for any projects, and I think they just look so cute. I think May's channel, she had made some like oh my gosh, card holders or gift card holders or something like that, but I just wanted to make mine like little journaling cards that you could just write into you know, a little message into or whatever. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed the share. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Oh, and here I'm just showing you how I would put a topper to it if you wanted to, so it kind of gives it a different color at the top, so it might look like a lid. You would just add that to the top and then cut off the edges, but I just like the way they look. So anyways, thanks for stopping by.